Josh, Bogies and Bullshit here. I was gonna do an episode and have a little video going out for like my weekly video, but I'm kind of lost on what I was gonna do my topic on. I was thinking about marriage and monogamy and if it's outdated, if it's a thing of the past, if it's real. And you know, I don't know. So there's just, a lot of questions that I have that I want to ask and I want to get people's, advice about your perception, your opinion on things. And, I got some pretty good questions. So I think that this is something that we can really have a good discussion about. And you tell me what you think. And it'll be life questions, work questions, relationship questions, anything that needs to be addressed. Like I said, I'm not a professional by any means on any of these topics. I'm just speaking from the dome, rambling, trying to get something out there, get a conversation going. Hit me in the chat. Tell me what you think. Anything goes. Let's have a conversation about it. I have questions of the day. I started this channel one day. I was in my feelings. I was speaking. I was doing weekly videos. A lot of people were interested in my first video. So I wanted to get something going. Every day I hit off the question of the day. And it's a question about life, relationships, and etc. And I ask these questions and I try to get people's perspective about it. Don't be afraid to hit me in the comments of these questions, guys. Let's get it going. A lot of people will just direct message me because they think that if they direct message me, no one can see their response and they're not going to make any waves. But this is the internet. Who cares? You're never going to see half these people. Doesn't matter. Speak what's on your mind. Tell me how you feel. I got some good questions here, guys. So let's get this conversation going. I was like I said, I was trying to do my weekly video. I couldn't find really a good topic to speak about. So, give me some advice here. What do you think that I should, what my weekly video should be about? What kind of conversation can we have? Rachel, what's going on? My day's been good. I got a lot of stuff done. You know, my story. I'm going through a divorce. Went from living in a house to an apartment. I had to go to the storage container because let me tell you, storage containers cost a lot of money and they always go up. So I'm always fucking dealing with some bullshit with that. And when you go from having a house to a store, to an apartment, and you got to use a storage container, it sucks because you fit all these things from a house to a storage container, and then I gotta like sift through things and see if I need it or not. But let's get this conversation going, guys. We got some followers here. I'm gonna hit you guys up with some questions. Let me know what you think. Anything goes. Tell me how you feel, and I want to know. What do you guys think? Does monogamy still exist in this day and age? Is marriage and monogamy, are those outdated ideals? Gay love from India. There you go, Mr. Cocaine City. Gay love from India. Hey, man, I don't know you. I'm just stopping by. But I hope your night goes great. Thank you, man. I appreciate that you're stopping by. You don't have to know me. Join the conversation. Let's get it going. Like, comment, subscribe. I got some good questions. I want to get people's advice. Let me know what you think. Do you think that monogamy exists? Do you think that marriage is outdated? Because I could tell you, I know a lot of guys that don't want to get married. A lot of guys don't want to get married. They're afraid financially it's going to be a burden on them. They think that it's just going to end in a shitty situation. So a lot of guys don't want to get married. Guys would rather, do whatever they got to do and live a good life, invest money, pay their bills, travel the world. Think about it. A lot of men are going to Colombia and because women from other countries are treating men better than women in America do. So guys are not feeling American like women anymore. Is it because, these gender roles have changed and women are not the same? Tell me what you think. Does monogamy exist? Is marriage still a thing? Personally, I don't believe it's worth getting married anymore. Especially for a man, it's very hard on a man to get married in this day and age. Like a lot of pressure on the man. They got to provide, they got to pay the bills, they got to, get the house, the car. They have to, put out this, bravado that everything's okay, but a lot of stress falls on the men. So I don't know if marriage is worth it anymore. And you tell me, if you're a woman out there, tell me what your perspective is on it. You think it's worth getting married anymore? I know a lot of women that don't even want to get married. Like, I don't need a man. I don't need a man. I could do everything on my own. So tell me what you think. You know, when it comes to relationships, do looks really matter? I personally believe that physical attraction is like the number one thing at first. When you see someone that you like or that you're interested in, it's physical attraction. You see that person, they're like, oh, this girl's pretty. I like this girl. I'm gonna hit on her and I'm gonna try to date her. I want to know, what do you think? You think that physical attraction is important in a relationship? Because I know girls who that have told me that they were not physically attracted to a man, but they just felt like because he had money, he was the best option. He paid the bills, but they weren't even physically attracted to them. So, how important is physical attraction in a relationship? Me, I think it's huge. There has to be. Thank you, Slob Town Lawn Care. Appreciate it. Thank you for subscribing. Let's get this channel going, guys. We can literally talk about anything. I will leave the topics up for you guys. This ain't just about me. This is, my healing process of all the stressful shit that I'm dealing with, the bullshit I go through. Sometimes I just need to get out here and I need to talk about it. And in some of you guys might be going through some stressful times in your life. Let's put it out there. What's going on? What does it say? Mr. Cocaine City, 2 men should be able to get married. Well, I mean, I think you're in India, but out here in America, 2 men can get married. So, I don't know where you're from, but in America, 2 men can get married. In New York, they made it legal. In California, they made it legal. I know there's a lot of states that made it legal. So, Pickle the Chip, thank you. I don't know. Pickle the Chip, he just said, I think he's from India. So, I don't think that it's good. You should be the new Tony Stark. I wish I was a billionaire like Tony Stark. Shit. If I had that money, bro, forget about it. I wouldn't even blow it on like cars and crazy shit. Like, I don't need that. Give me a nice motorcycle, maybe a nice Rolex, because I'm a watch kind of guy. Just a regular normal house, and I'll be happy. I don't need anything crazy, you know. But yeah, this guy, Mr. Cocaine City, said 2 men should be able to get married. I think he lives in India, so maybe it's not legal in India, but that could happen. Me personally, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. I don't even know if marriage is worth it anymore, whether it's gay marriage, lesbian marriage, straight marriage. Like, marriage is a thing of the past. A lot of people don't do it. Michael Torbinson says it's the simple things in life that make people the happiest. People got to learn to smile more at things. You know what? That's 100% true. It's not about material things. I don't care about cars, because let me tell you, that car loses its value the minute you drive it off the lot. That's not an investment for me. I like motorcycles. I'm all about that. Look, Pickle the Chip, for real, I don't want to get married that much, to be honest. Honestly, a lot of men don't want to get married. A lot of men don't. I used to think that, like, if a man was a certain age and they weren't married and they didn't have kids, they were either gay or they were a playboy and they just wanted to do their thing. But a lot of people, are doing it that way because they want to travel. Like, let's see. What is that? Joshua Navarra. Shout out to you. Marriages don't work much anymore because there's no God in the relationship, no true love. And let me tell you something. I agree with that. And I asked that question one day. Does religion play a big role in your relationship being successful? A lot of these Christian marriages that I see where people are, God fearing and, they have God in their life, their marriages last the longest, and they have the best marriages. And I was just watching something a little bit earlier about that there was this guy, and it's an episode on the Sean Ryan show. I don't know exactly what episode, but the guy was a Navy SEAL, and he had a lot of traumatic brain injury. He was married. His marriage was on the rocks because he was constantly traveling. He was away deployed in the military and stuff like that. He came back. Him and his wife were getting a divorce, and his marriage was on the rocks. His marriage was bad, but then he found God. And when he found God, now he said that his marriage is the strongest that it's ever been. They didn't end up divorcing. They ended up getting back together, repairing their marriage. And, God was a big factor in that. You like my username is really funny. Yeah, bogeys and bullshit, baby. That's what I do. And I smoke bogeys and I just bullshit. So that's why I called it. Me and my friends at work, whenever we just want to like just take a break or whatever, be like, yo, you want to smoke a bogey and bullshit? So that's when I made it, because just smoke a bogey and bullshit. But a lot of people don't want to get married anymore. Marriage is not the way that it used to be. People don't want to get married, because does monogamy exist anymore? I don't think so. I know a lot of people that their marriages and their relationships have failed due to like cheating and stuff. All right, Rachel, good luck. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't do anything stupid. This too shall pass. Remember that. This too shall pass. Everything's going to work out. Don't, keep your head up. Everything's going to be good. And Josue Navarra says, love nowadays is seen as a transaction. I 100% agree. Marriage is a transaction. Marriage is like, at this point, a financial transaction. I know couples that just stay together. There's couples that just stay married together for finances. There's no love in that relationship. There's no emotion involved. It's all just financial benefit. It's so that you can have the house, the car, and keep up with the Joneses, as we call it. Keep up with the Joneses for appearances. Love nowadays is seen as a transaction. And you know what? That's a great thing that you just brought up, because I do have a question of the day that I'm gonna put out this week. And I actually made the video for it yesterday, but let me get your opinion on it. Is being in love or love a long-term thing, or is it just like a temporary emotion, a short-term emotion? Because I know from people that I've spoken to, I have a friend who's been in a relationship for 15 years, and I had this conversation with him about it, because towards the end of my marriage, I got to a point where I would say to my friend, like, I don't know if this is like the love of my life. I don't know if this is, my forever. I don't know if I could see myself being with this person forever, and I said this to my friend, like, I don't know if I'm in love anymore. I love her. She's the mother of my kids, and like, I love her, but is this person the love of my life? And my friend said to me that, he's been with his person for 15 years, and he said that he doesn't think that being in love is forever. He thinks that, you will love that person, but at some point you're no longer in love. You're just basically like existing with each other. It comes down to comfort. You're comfortable, you have kids, you have a house, you still love that person, but it's not that like butterfly feeling anymore. And I don't know, but then I know people that are still truly madly in love. So it really all depends. Like you said, it really depends on, you know because in order to truly love something, you have to be willing to be able to let it go as well. All right, yeah, you could say that if you let them go and they come back, it was meant to be. If you truly love somebody, let them go. You know, you can say all that, but let's be real here. You know, is love a long-term thing, or is it just a short-term emotion? I don't know. Tell me what you think. Hit me in the comments. Let's get it in the chat. Anything goes. Don't feel like you're gonna offend somebody or someone might not understand your perspective. Put it out there. This is what it's all about. We're gonna have a normal conversation, because people don't engage like this anymore. People don't engage like this anymore. Everybody just wants to talk about politics and bullshit, but no one's talking about real important situations. So feel free to give me your perspective on this. Do you feel like love is forever? And if you do, give me an example. If you're in a relationship where you felt like love was, a long lasting thing, let me know. Because sometimes I wonder if love is forever, or if it's just how you're feeling at that moment, you know? So that's why, you know, I ask these questions, because I want to get everybody's feedback on this situation. Let me know what you think about it. Am I overthinking? Do I feel, is my perspective the wrong perspective? Because they say that there's questions that you should ask your partner before you get into a relationship with them, right? Like, do you really do you really know your partner as well as you think? Like, answer that. Do you really know the person that you love or you think you love the best? Let's see. Josue Navera, 5686. It's like a parent. You can love your kid with all your life and heart, but at the end of the day, the kid will do as they want. And as much as they love them, they love them enough to let them go too. Yeah, your kids are going to grow up, your kids are going to move out, your kids are going to go do their own thing. And that goes back to a great point. And I asked this question maybe a few weeks ago. You know, in a relationship, when you're in a relationship, who takes priority, your partner or your kids? That's a huge debate that I've had with so many people, because I was always told that the kids came first. You know, the kids don't know any better. You have to guide them and you have to make your kids a priority. But there's a lot of people that feel like the partner comes first. You know, Josue Navera, I'm just going to call you Joe, says you never really know a person. Yeah, you know, you really do never know a person. You know, they said that there's questions that you should be asking before you get into a serious relationship with somebody. And some of these questions are financial questions too. Like, you know, how much debt do you have? What's your credit score? You know, what is your lifestyle and your spending habits like? Do you know, do you want to have a joint or separate account when we get married, you know? Because I know couples that, you know, everything comes out of the joint account, right? This is our account. Everyone, you know, we share this account. But I know couples also that each one of them has a personal account and then they have a joint account together that the bills come out of, and they go 50-50 financially on everything. And that's another question that I asked. How do you feel about 50-50, you know, finances, you know, financially in a relationship? Or are you stuck in these old ways of that the man provides, you know? These are questions that you have to ask. And like, I got some good questions, guys. So I really want to get your perspective about it. Every question that I ask has some sort of like something to do with my past relationships, you know? Like, I asked the question, you know, do looks really matter in a relationship? Is physical attraction important? I think that physical attraction is the first thing that you notice. You know, you got to be physically attracted to that person, and then you build off of that. You're like, oh, this person's good looking. I want to get to know them. You know, whatever way you do it, if you're doing it on a dating site or you're doing it in real life, then you engage with this person. See, and you know what, Joe, that's how I am too, brother. You said, me personally, I would love to provide and not have my chick have to worry about anything, but wouldn't mind her helping or wanting to help. Listen, I have no problem being the man and providing and taking care of my family. But if you want to work and you want to be a part of the providing as well, then, you know, more power to you. Some women think that the man needs to provide and the man needs to pay all the bills, and but that goes into gender roles. And let's talk about gender roles. Do gender roles still exist? Is the man still the guy that pays the bills and takes care of the family, and the woman is still the one that takes care of the home and the kids? How do you feel about that? Let me get a woman's perspective in this. Right? Gumright says, I kind of agree with Josue, but at the same time, most people don't know themselves either due to fear or ignorance. My last relationship, it unlocked, showed aspects of my own self that I never knew. And, you know, everything's a learning experience at the end of the day. Let me tell you, during my divorce, I learned so many things about me and so many mistakes that I made that is like a learning experience that I know not to bring into a new relationship. And it's also something that it taught me what I want and what I don't want in my next relationship, what I'll take and what I won't take, you know? So everything is going to be a learning experience at the end of the day, right? You know, but let's go into this physical, you know, attraction. Is that important? Or are there other things important, you know? See, Joe says, well, nowadays it's very difficult for just one party to work and the other stay unless you have a really good job and make good money. Yeah, but is it ever enough? Is it ever enough? You know, if you're the main provider, and say you have an amazing job and you make good money. I don't know what state you're in, but I'm in New York. Things are expensive. You know, property taxes on a house are like $15,000 in some places. You know that gas is $3 a gallon. You go to the grocery store, milk's expensive, eggs are expensive. Rent for a one bedroom is like $2,500. You know, so everything's expensive in this world right now. So it is hard for the man to be, you know, the only one working. You know, a lot of households need that two incomes, right? And but that's good. Like, you know, both of you want to work and provide and you know, because my money is my family's money at the end of the day, right? Like, I'm not counting the percentage that I put in to the bank account. I'm not like, all right, well, the rent's 3,000, the mortgage is $3,000, so I'm only putting 50% of that in, and here's $1,500, and you got to put $1,500 in too. I'm not doing that. When I get paid, my money goes into a joint account, and that's the family's money, and the bills get paid. You know, I'm not counting percentages here. Oh, I'm paying 80% of the bills, and you're only paying 20 or 50-50. Like, that's not how I do it. You know, some people do. I have a friend that, you know, him and his wife both work. They each got a personal account, and then they have a joint account. And she'll call him and be like, all right, well, you know, I'm going to buy this. It's $1,200. And he'll be like, all right, I'll send you 600. And I'm like, send her 600. You just don't take it out of the joint account? And he said, no, I have my personal account. She has her personal account, and we have account together for the bills and for stuff like that. This way, when I buy stuff, she can't bitch at me for buying it. And if she buys something, I can't bitch at her about buying it because it's her money and it's my money. So if I want to buy a new watch or a new, you know, toy, she can't complain about it, right? Right? Most definitely, right? Joe says, most definitely everything is expensive now, but it depends on the kind of woman you have with you. Looks aren't important. Yes, they play a factor into who you seek, but be at your side, but aren't number one. All right. And you know what? I agree and I disagree, right? But you are right. I might be a little shallow. I want to have a beautiful girl, you know, but I've also learned my lesson from the past where, like, I only went for a girl because she was a looker. And then down the line, I realized she wasn't smart, she wasn't motivated, she wasn't driven. And now I look for more. So you're right. You know, looks, the physical attraction is going to be, you know, number one when it comes to like first engaging with this person. But now I'm looking for more, especially as I get older. You know, Gumrice says physical attraction is having your foot in the door of a relationships, but it also sometimes ends at just that. And you know what? That's what I just said. I had a girl, beautiful, beautiful. This girl I was dating, I was younger at the time. I was probably like in my early 20s, and she was a beautiful girl, and she had a body on her, but she was so boring that I could not even have like a conversation with her. It was like blah. It was like pulling teeth. She was like so boring and like monotone, and you know, and that's all it was. She was a looker. Then I had another relationship where the girl was beautiful, right? Beautiful, smoking body, right? And I fell for her ass. And I'm not gonna lie, you know, I'm not gonna lie about it. I'll be honest with you. She had a big butt, and I like big butts. I'm not gonna lie, right? And I went, and you know, and that's what drew me to her. But there was no more substance to that. She wasn't motivated, driven, educated, and that ended in a failure because there was nothing more to it, right? So, you know, Joe says exactly. They use their body to climb up the ladder, but they have no depth to them, just like everyone else. Absolutely, you know, there's people, you know, that could go even in the workplace. In the workplace, you might work with a smoking hot, beautiful woman who is not even an intelligent person, not even a hard worker, but she's just making it up the ranks because she's a good-looking person. And that happens in a lot of workplaces. In my job, that happens so much because I see it happen. I see it happen. You know, the supervisors want to take, you know, the pretty girl under their wing, and, you know, that's going to be their assistant or whatever. But, like, come on. It got to be more than that. There's no character, there's just persona. And I 100% agree. Now, So, we talked about it. Do looks really matter? No, looks are not number one, right? Now, do those gender roles still exist where the man is the provider and the woman is the homemaker? Or the man is expected to do this and the woman is expected to do this? Do those gender roles still exist in our life? Or are those obsolete? Are those just a thing in the past, right? Because I know, like in my grandparents' days, like my grandfather and grandmother had 8 kids, and he worked hard, and she was the homemaker and took care of the kids and took care of the household. Now we can't really do that in this society. Some people can, but not all of us can. Both parties got to work because we just live in an expensive world where everything's expensive. But do you think those gender roles still exist? Let's see, Joe says, it's hard to say because men nowadays are men and women are women. Let me tell you something. Check out my videos, man. Check out my videos because I did a video maybe 2 weeks ago that was like men aren't men anymore. And if you look on social media and you look at what's out there, like the US military was having such a hard time recruiting people that they had to lower the standards to let people in. And now, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, is raising those standards and stuff like that because we got to get back to the American superiority. I made a video about that. But, like, because men aren't men anymore. Men, I know a lot of women that say men want to be chased. Men don't chase women anymore. So I 100% agree with you when you say that men nowadays aren't men and women are not women either. I made a video about that too. You know, a lot of women are in that masculine energy, right? They don't need a man. They're gonna do it themselves. They think that they could be tough and they yell and they argue and they act very manly. And men are becoming so weak. It's like a fucking joke. It's a joke. Like, you know, I grew up where a man was a man. He provided for his family. He took care of his family. A man didn't share his feelings. A man didn't cry, right? That's how I grew up, right? And, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but, the world's a lot different now. The world's a lot different now. But my father showed me how to be a man, responsibility, providing, being a hard worker. And people don't want to work anymore. Men don't want to work anymore. Men are becoming soft. And a lot of these women are in this masculine energy where they're taking the lead and they're taking the reins and they're acting more like men than the men. So Sigumray says gender roles are relative. In my experience, my last partner and I agreed that it didn't matter who got the best paying job. All that matters is that one of us gets one. And let me tell you, it's all about the relationship that you're in, right? Right? It doesn't matter who cooks, who cleans. Like if you're the first one home, right? Say, I'm working till 4 o'clock today, and you're working till 5 o'clock today, and I get home before you. I'll start dinner. Like, let me tell you, in my marriage, I did the grocery shopping. I went out, I did the grocery shopping. I did my own laundry. You know, I did household chores and stuff like that. I put my work in. I didn't leave my wife to just cook, clean, and do everything. I took care of the kids. Right, like we had different schedules where I worked at night. She worked during the day, so I had the kids during the day. She had the kids at night. And it's funny because I had a conversation with my, I guess, soon to be ex, because we're going through a divorce. We're not fully divorced yet. I had a conversation with her today, and I said, you should come on my little podcast and explain to people like your perspective or your side of the story of like what the downfall of our relationship was and what was the demise of our marriage. And she's like, I don't need to go on your podcast to do that. I can tell you what it was right now. I said, I'm all ears. Tell me. And she said, it's I work too much. She said it was that I worked too much and that I missed out on a lot of holidays and that she felt like, you know, she was doing a lot of things alone because I worked too much. And I said, but that's like what a man does. Like we work and we provide for a family. I wanted to make sure. She said it was all about finances and making more money and that's all I cared about. And I don't think so. Because, I would turn down a lot of overtime, a lot of side gigs so that I could be with my family. And but I was just taught that that's what a man did. A man went to work. And maybe, I feel like everybody learns off of how their parents were. You know, like my parents were my standard of being in a relationship. My parents are together for 45 years, right? Still married, 45 years together. Do they fight and argue? Absolutely. But like they're still together. And like I've got good habits from my father and I've got bad habits from my father. And things that I've seen with my mother, is sometimes what I look in a woman. My mom was a hard worker. My mom has a good job, makes good money. Her and my father, contributed to everything together. All the money went into a joint account. It wasn't, oh, this is mine, this is yours, or I'm contributing 50-50. Is all the money went into one account. Didn't matter. My mom worked hard, still cooked, still cleaned, and my dad wasn't around a lot of the time. Like, my dad wasn't at all my baseball games. My dad wasn't at all of my school events, but he worked hard. And I guess that was my standard. Like, that's what I followed. I saw that he went to work all the time. He wasn't around all the time. And that was okay, because as long as that we had everything that we needed, that's the only thing that mattered. As long as the bills were paid and there was food in the refrigerator, that was the only thing that mattered, right? So I guess I got the gender roles based off of that. Like, my mom, she was in like the PTA, came to our events, she cooked, she cleaned, even though she worked, but like she was still that woman. And that's what I expected in my relationship. And I always compared my relationship to other people's relationships. And that was a big problem too, because you got to kind of shape your own relationship, right? I mean, they say, you can't do that. You can't compare it. You shape your own relationship, right? Like, it's your relationship, your own rules. You have to design a partnership that serves you. And I guess I always tried to compare my parents' relationship to mine, and that was like the model, right? And I guess that was a demise also. So I don't know. Gender roles, do gender roles still exist? I guess we could say that they don't, right? So now we can move on. Now, do you think that there's such thing as love at first sight? Seriously, let me get your thoughts on it. Hit me in the comments. Do you think that there's such thing as love at first sight? Because I used to struggle with this. I think that there is such thing as love at first sight. Maybe not love, but like you might be able to look at somebody right away and be like, wow, like phew, I got these strong feelings for this person. This might be it. I know somebody um who their first date, he said to her, I'm gonna marry you one day. And then like 3 weeks later he proposed, and like 3 months later they were engaged, they were married. So he fell in love with her at first sight. Do you think that love at first sight is real? Let me know. Hit me in the chat. Do you think that love at first sight is something that's real? Or, maybe it's not love, maybe it's lust, maybe it's not lust, maybe it's infatuation. Tell me what you think. Everybody has their own thing about it. I felt like sometimes that it was love at first sight. Maybe, I was wrong, but sometimes I would see somebody like, wow, like I don't know what it is, but like I am obsessed, you know? So what do you think? Is it love at first sight? Is it lust at first sight? Is it infatuation? Is it obsession? Is it, you know, is it any of those factors? So let me know what you think. Hit me in the chat. Please like, subscribe, comment, guys. I love having an open platform. I love seeing what you guys got to say. I'll shout you guys out. If you have any questions that you want me to ask on my daily question of the day, I'll put it out there and I'll give you a shout out. The question of the day goes out to, you know, gum rice, and then I'll spit your question and we'll get people's perspective on it. Let's get a conversation going, because a lot of people don't like to conversate anymore. I feel like everything is about politics and everything's about, like, I go through these channels and it's like, why do you hate Trump, or do you still support Trump, or blah 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 blah. Like, I don't want to talk about that shit. Life is more important than politics. There's real deal shit that's going on in people's lives right now, right? If you're going through something that's stressing you out, you're going through something that, just flipped your life upside down, You're not at it alone. I say, so Gumray says, personally, I really haven't had a love at first sight because there have been girls I've liked, but a day or two after seeing them, usually the thing I thought was love is gone. Yeah. I mean, it could fade. That might be just be infatuation or lust, or sometimes you might really like somebody and then you sleep with them and then that changes your whole perspective. Let me tell you, there's been women that I would speak to on the phone, like on the dating apps, like, exchange information, blah, blah, and it goes to the phone and I'm talking to them on the phone and I'm like, oh, I really like this person. This person's cool, and then I hang out with them and like 10 minutes into that date, I'm like, oh, I never want to be around this person again. I can't handle this person. I can't deal with this person. So, I can agree with you. I've had the same circumstances where I've liked this person. I have really strong connection with this person. And like a couple of days later, I was like, oh, like, what the fuck was I thinking? So I get it. So love at first sight, does it exist? Maybe for some people, but I don't know. So let's say next question I got for you guys. How important is it, you know, to move in with somebody before you marry them or get engaged to them? Because I'll give you an example, right? I met my ex, and we were talking for like 6 months before we really like went out with each other. And then when we finally went out, I was like hooked. I was like, oh man, like this is it. This is the one, love at first sight kind of shit, right? And then 6 months into our relationship, I proposed, right? I proposed. I got a ring. I proposed. Then I'm like, oh shit, now that I'm engaged to her, like we got to live together. So then through like 3 months later, we got an apartment and we lived together, right? And when you live with somebody, I think it's so important that you live with this person before you take it any further to the next step, whether it's engagement, whatever you're trying to do. Because like when you live with somebody, you really, really get to know who that person is. You really get to know who that person is. There's gonna be things that you can handle and there's things that you can't handle. And I couldn't handle snoring, man. Like I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. I'm talking like a freight train snoring in my ear. It was brutal. I couldn't sleep. I have to like push her and like tap her and wake her up and be like, yo, come on. You're fucking killing me. Like turn over to the other side. Have the TV blasting. I tried earplugs. I tried to get her like a snoring thing because the snoring was killing me. And that was like a game changer for me because snoring can really fucking destroy a relationship. I know it sounds fucked up. I know it sounds crazy, but like if you have a partner that snores like a freight train coming by, that can really put a damper on your relationship because like you're not sleeping, now you're irritable. That's sleep apnea, and I tried to say, like, yo, we need to get you like a sleep apnea machine. We need to get you something, like, let's go do a sleep study. But like, and they'd be like, fuck you, I'm not doing a sleep study, you're a dick, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, dude, you're snoring, it's fucking killing me. My boy Chad Ryan's in the chat. Shout out to Chad. Chad, we're having a conversation over here about like, how important it is to live with somebody before you go any further with them because living with somebody is such a game changer. It's like you don't even understand. That could change the whole aspect of a relationship. And like I said, like I met a girl, I fell in love. 6 months later, I proposed. Then 3 months after that, we moved in with each other. And there was things that you could deal with certain things, certain behaviors you could deal with, right? She was like very OCD with cleaning and stuff like that. And I'm not a slob, but I'm not like meticulous and like, OCD like that when it comes to cleaning. And like, but that was something I could handle. I'd rather have someone who's clean than a slob, right? And then when it got to like going to sleep at night, she snored like a freight train in my ear. And that was something that I couldn't handle. And like, I could not fall asleep. Like, I had to pray that I fell asleep before her because I'll sleep through the snoring. I just can't fall asleep with the snoring going on next to me. So that was a game changer. So how long do you wait to move in? How important is it to live with that person before you take that relationship to the next step and you get engaged or you get married? These are questions that I ask because I want to get people's perspective on these things. Because I learned my lesson. Let me tell you something. Because my next relationship, like before I even think about taking it to the next level and proposing, yeah, Joe Rogan has a mouth guard that keeps you from snoring. I tried, yo, listen, man, I tried everything with this girl. There was this thing that like hooked onto your nose that stopped you from snoring. We tried the mouth guard. Some people just, I don't know, man. I, I know people that have that machine that you have to sleep with for the sleep apnea. Maybe, I don't have that. I've snored so bad that my dangly thing in my mouth swells up. Yeah. And then you wake up with a sore throat, probably, right? That's what happens. Your mouth's open and you're snoring like crazy. I don't know. I'm not really a snorer. I've asked people, they're like, oh, sometimes you snore a little bit, but you know, only sometimes. When it's hot in my room, I snore. But like if I have the air conditioner on, going and stuff, I'm like free, breathing free. If it gets really hot, then I get congested. But so let's see, moving in with each other. Let me ask you guys something, and I got a serious question here. How do you feel about a third person in the bedroom when it comes to your relationship? Is this my dangly thing feels like a pinky finger in my mouth? Yeah, it sucks. Like choking on it. But how do you feel about a third person in the bedroom when it comes to your relationship? Does that affect the relationship? Does that affect it? Right? Like if by you have a third person join your relationship, you're trying to spice things up in the bedroom, does that have an effect on your relationship? Does it make it better? Does it strengthen it? Or does it destroy it? Because these are questions that I ask. Everything has to do a little bit with my life. I've had a partner that, felt like we should have a third person, like another female in the bedroom because they thought that all men are going to cheat, so at least they can control my cheating. And, I was like, I don't really need that. See, Chad says, oh, spicing it up. Do you have rules? Yeah, exactly. Then you got to come into play. What rules? You can't sleep with this person when I'm not around. Um, it has to be consensual. This person is not allowed to go down on you. You're not allowed to penetrate this person. Like, what are the rules of this threesome, right? So, anybody who's joining us right now, does a third person in the bedroom affect your relationship? Has anybody ever had a situation where they brought a third in and it destroyed their relationship, or brought a third in and it spiced it up and it made it a lot better? And what are the rules to this? They're rules, because I know I got laid down the bylaws were like, all right, you're not allowed to penetrate. What? Yeah, you could get oral and you can give oral, but you're not allowed to penetrate. So what's the fun in that? I don't know. I don't need that kind of stuff though. When I'm in a relationship, like I don't need a third person in there, like to spice it up to have a threesome. I'm pretty good on my own, but I feel like that causes so many problems. Because let me tell you something: someone is going to get jealous at some point, right? Now you're in a relationship. You got a husband, you got a wife, you got a girl, whatever it is, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is. But let's just say, for example, me, right? I'm a man. I got a girl, right? She wants to invite one of her friends as a third in the bedroom. I'm telling you, I know for a fact that's going to destroy my relationship, because now this third is going to be something new, fresh, and exciting. So, am I going to enjoy this person more than I enjoy my girl? Absolutely, Chad. I agree. Chad says I'd say it would cause problems. I think so too, because possibly I might enjoy this third person better than my girl. She's going to notice. She's going to get all butthurt. She's going to feel some kind of way about it. And then, it's just going to be bad on me, you know? Or think about it. You might see your girl hooking up with another girl, and you might be like, this is not really doing it for me. You might look at that person differently. And it all depends on what kind of circumstances you got. Me personally, I'm not having a threesome with another man and my girl. Absolutely not. I'm not down for that. And I don't want to see that. And I don't want that. So I have to be in like two other girls. relationship. It will affect it. Anybody that's joining, I got another question of the day. I'm going to give you guys a chance to answer. Hit me in the chat. Let me know what you think. Is it a red flag if you have sex on the first date? Is that a no-go? Or are you cool with that? Yeah, Chad. Of course you did. That was because of that conversation with Mike, right? But no, all right. So let's see. Like, does having sex on the first date affect your relationship? Like, do you look at this person differently? Is it a red flag? Is this a person you think this person's a hoe or whatever? Let's think about it, right? I don't think there's anything wrong sex on the first date. Because what if you really like this person and you got something good going here, and then you wait 90 days, right? I knew a girl that waited 90 days before she had sex, right? There was like that 90-day rule. You couldn't have sex. She wouldn't have sex with anybody until they were like serious for like 90 days. And then you have sex after those 90 days, and this is garbage. Like, what do you do at that point? Right? Oh, I like you. I fell in love with you, but our sex is horrible. Like, you got to think about it. Some people have sex right away because, sex is a big part of your relationship. Physical intimacy is a big part of your relationship. And does bad sex affect your relationship? Let me know what you think. Let me know. Answer in the chat. Does bad sex affect your relationship? And if you have sex right away with your new partner, does that affect you too? Does that make you look at this person differently? Is it a red flag and now you're going to hit it and quit it? Or can you see yourself moving forward with this person? These are questions that you got to ask yourself, because you don't want to have a relationship, fall in love with this person, and then the sex is horrible, right? Bad sex can affect a relationship. It might lead to like wandering eyes and wandering hands and stuff like that. So, you got to make sure, that the sex is good. And, does that lead to a third person in there? Now the sex was shitty that they want to spice it up with a third person. So Chad says, to be honest, from what I've heard, it takes 5 years to get to know someone. The key is trust. Chad, I might agree with you there, because like that could be like another question. How well do you know your partner? Right? You think you might know them, but what's a good time frame to actually know who this person is? Because let me tell you, in my past relationship, we were together for 7 years. I thought I knew her like the back of my hand, but there were so many things that happened that I was like, wow, I barely even know this person. So you might be onto something there. How long does it take to truly know somebody? I don't know. We got to look into that, because you think you're this person, right? But you might really not know anything about them. And that goes to like my next question, right? Does your past affect your present, right? Things that happen in your past, does that affect your present? And like, I know that I have other people that I've spoken to on my other lives that, past relationships do have an effect on their present, right? Maybe they'll never trust again. Maybe they were cheated on and they'll never trust again. Or maybe they were physically abused and now they can't get comfortable with somebody. So in my opinion, your past can affect your present when it comes to like, relationships or future relationships, right? I know a girl that was just telling me the other day that she hasn't been intimate with a man in such a long time, and it's so hard for her to be intimate with a man because her last relationship, the man would like force himself on her and physically abuse her and beat her, and now going forward, like, she never will trust a man again, you know or even as a man. Now, say you were in love with somebody and this woman cheated on you, is that going to affect you from moving forward? Are you going to have the same life with your next partner? You feel like it's going to cause problems and issues, and that trust is going to be gone? So Yeah, sometimes your past does affect your present or your future, but at the same time, a good partner won't let your past affect your relationship now, right? The past is in the past and that's it, right? Um, what about how do you feel about people who have, are not married and have no kids in their late 30s? Is that like a red flag or are they just being smart? Is it worth having kids anymore? Is it worth having kids anymore? Is it worth having kids and getting married anymore? You know, I don't know. You tell me. Some people don't want to get married and have kids. Some people just want to, live their life, build an empire. It's, 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 it's a different world right now. A lot of men don't trust women. A lot of women don't want a man because they think they can do it by themselves. That whole institution of marriage is just gone. You know, those gender roles, those ideologies of the past are not even a part of our present or our future anymore. No one thinks about that kind of stuff anymore, right? The way relationships were back in the days, like in the 50s and like grandparents' times, is not the same anymore. It's a different world now. Huge, huge different world right now. And like, what do you feel about if that man asks you to sign a prenup? Or if you're a man, would you present a prenup into the relationship to secure your finances and stuff like that? I don't know. What's your relationship with this person's family? Does that change the dynamic of your relationship? I don't know, guys. Said this is just, you know, let's spitball. Let's just have a conversation. Whatever you want to talk about. I appreciate everybody that's watching. I appreciate everybody. Like, subscribe, follow me for more. Every day, like I said, I'm gonna do the question of the day. If you have a question that you want me to ask and you want to get people's perspective on, feel free to hit me up. Let me know what question you want to ask. I'll give you a shout out. Follow me on Instagram at JPD628. On TikTok, I'm Bogies and Bullshit. YouTube, Bogies and Bullshit. Twitch, Bogies and Bullshit. I have a weekly segment. It's called Bogies and Bullshit. I have daily question of the day. And then I just have my lives where we can talk about anything. It's like Bogies and Bullshit going live. Eventually, I'm going to get some people in here. We're going to get males' perspectives and their stories. We're going to get women's perspective and their stories. Everybody has a different opinion, different perspective on things. And we're going to get that going. Eventually, I'm going to hit the streets and I'm going to ask my question of the day to people on the street and see what people's answers are. Like, can men and women really be friends or is there a hidden agenda here? I don't know. You tell me. I feel like a man and a woman can't really be friends, but some people think it can. I think that a woman can be friends with a man, but a man can't be friends with a woman because at some point that man probably wanted to be intimate with that woman. So everybody has a different opinion on things. Everyone has a different perspective. And that's what I'm all about. I'm trying to get different opinions and different perspectives on things. Like I said, like, subscribe, follow me for more. We can keep this going. Hit me in the chat. Let me know what you think. I'm going to try to do a live at least once a day, once every night. Um, like I said, weekly episodes, daily questions of the day. Let me know what you think. Check out my questions of the day, guys. I ask pretty good questions. Comment in the comments what your perspective is on this or what you think, about each question. A lot of people are afraid to answer the question of the day. They're afraid of what people are going to think, or they're afraid that, they're going to stir the pot. But who cares if we stir the pot, guys? This is the internet. You'll probably never see any of these people ever again. So feel free to comment in the question of the day what your perspective on each question is. I appreciate everybody again for liking, subscribing, trying to get something going here. We'll hit up daily current events as well. It doesn't have to just be about relationships and stuff like that. We could talk about daily events, current events, anything that's going on, what your feelings are on certain things. If you're from New York, how you feel about, this new guy that could be the mayor. If you're in Portland, Oregon, how are you feeling about these protests? And are they really peaceful? If you're in Chicago, is there really chaos in the streets? Like, we could talk about all these things, current events. We'll talk about life, work, custody, divorce, marriage, relationships, hobbies, Whatever you got, we'll talk about it. Follow me for more. Like, subscribe, guys. Please hit me in the comments on my question of the day. It helps me out a lot. It lets me get some feedback on certain things I feel. And if you know, if you could change my perspective on things, then that's great. You know. So I'm gonna cut it short. We're coming up on the hour mark. I don't want to keep people going too long. I got to follow up on some stuff. I appreciate everybody for watching. Thank you. Like I said, like, subscribe, follow me for more, guys. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Anything that you're going through, this too shall pass, right? Nothing lasts forever. You're going to get through it. Find some hobbies. Your mental health is always going to be key, and that's always going to be important. Have a nice night, guys. Follow me for more, like I said. Have a good night.